Hello, I'm David Reed. I'm a member of the dock riders. They stood up earlier. I presume they don't need you again. They stood up earlier, and I presume they don't need you again. I've been a member of the dock riders for many years. We ride out of Dock 52. The reason is because Dock 52 is at the heart of where we ride from and to, and the parking is free. Most of the members of the dock riders are not affluent. Our dues are only $20 a year to make it possible for us to be members, and there are many of us. Cycling is the fastest growing recreational activity in the United States. It is consummately environmentally friendly. It is affordable, and it's remarkably healthy. I'm 74 years old. I'm an entertainment lawyer. I've represented Liz Taylor, Peter Falk, Jimmy Kahn, Debbie Reynolds, Jack Webb, Universal, Fox, Capitol Records, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and hundreds of others. But nothing is more important that I've ever spoken about than this. These people have their lives wrapped around being able to do this. If you do the simple homework of going to Dock 52 and looking around the parking lot, you won't see any late model Mercedes-Benzes, you won't see any Bentleys, you won't see Ferraris, you'll see older cars. You'll see people there, and hundreds of them riding their bicycles or running from Dock 52. These people are friendly, they're sweethearted. Because of them, 3 weeks ago, because of my involvement and introduction to them, 3 weeks ago, I was able to ride 100.2 miles to the top of Big Bear Village, 10,000 feet of climbing. That's because of the lifestyle we have. Nobody drops a piece of paper on the ground there. No one. They're careful. We're careful of the environment, and we're careful of each other. Your environmental impact report, if you obtain one, won't show the decimation that these people will suffer if you close Dock 52 to them. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susie Goodman, and definitely we are overdeveloped here, but I'm going to talk from a wholly different. I had my boat in Marina del Rey. I'm a sailor for over 10 years. This project is the worst thing you could possibly put here for boaters. Sailors would be, there's no way, if you break it, the whole wind is gone. You can't possibly build something that's so obnoxious as this boat central thing. There are places that need covered spaces. It's called the East Coast, where weather is. Southern California happens to have the best weather going. We do not need to have covered spaces for boats. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Armaidi May, and thank you for being here to listen to our concerns. I've been a resident of this area for most of my life, and I've seen a pattern of wildlife being devastated through overdevelopment. One example of which is what happened at Oxford Lagoon, which is supposed to be a federally protected bird refuge. And somehow the County Board of Supervisors decided that they were going to convert that into a public recreation area instead of honoring the wildlife and letting them have their peace and dignity. They destroyed 650 mature, beautiful trees. And this was despite protests, which I organized several fellow community members who were concerned. And we got a lot of media coverage. Even despite that, however, the county ignored our concerns. The supervisors went right ahead, and they actually violated a number of laws in the process. I was witness to a dead bird. An osprey is also a bird of special concern who use those trees for their habitat, and that bird is now in trouble. We also are concerned about the monarch butterflies that have lost their homes because those eucalyptus trees were destroyed, and the monarch butterflies are in decline. 90%, their numbers are down. So I'm definitely opposed to this Boat Central project. I think it's not helping the community, it's not helping the wildlife. It's just more enriching a very tiny percentage who just want to get more and more wealthy at the expense of everyone else. And it's just not right, because this is a public area. We're supposed to help everyone, and we cannot just allow our lives to be destroyed so that a few people can just rake in more and more money. I think that you also have to remember that being that it's a glass building, it's going to be a real problem for the birds that are trying to fly. I'm a veterinarian. I've treated birds along with many other types of animals, but I've seen a dead bird next to a glass building with my own eyes rather recently, and I think it would be tragic if you had this big structure here, and I'm sure there will be a lot of dead birds. As it is, the wildlife are struggling. So I just ask that you please consider this carefully and don't let these influences taint your perception of the reality of what's going on here. It's just an ongoing trend of overdevelopment at the expense of our wildlife, our habitats for all these creatures that share this planet with us, the environment, and of course the public. So thank you.
Honorable officials, I'm Marcia Hanska with the Biona Institute. We are the voice for nature on the Los Angeles coast, and I want to welcome you to our neighborhood and to the greater Biona wetlands ecosystem. We're standing on and sitting on what was once, not that long ago, part of the Biona wetlands. More than half of the wetlands were destroyed to build Marina Del Rey in the 60s. And the rationale that was given, besides some misguided ideas about mosquito-infested swamps, and sort of historically the way wetlands were thought of, the rationale was this would be a public resource for the entire region. And that, you know, if we turn this into Miami Beach, it's really not that anymore. However, there are little pockets of open space where nature is thriving. We have 8 endangered species in the Biona wetlands right across the street from this Dock 52. And this Dock 52 parking lot's a little bit special to me because I've worked since 1995 to help protect more than 640 acres of the Biona wetlands that we did get into public ownership. And this parking lot was where we brought all the elected officials, and some not elected, including Mike Davis, who was the Assistant Secretary of the Army Corps of Engineers at one time. And I think that what he did during Bill Clinton's time in office was help turn the Corps a little bit toward the environment. So we have someone who's the senior lead on this, who's an ecologist. That wasn't the way things were 25, 30 years ago with the Army Corps. So it's very heartening to see this and to think that the Army Corps of Engineers actually might help us more than the California Coastal Commission is doing, which is in complete disarray right now. But you know, we are asking you to help us to protect this parking lot. Why would you protect a parking lot? Well, this parking lot is right across the street from the Biona wetlands. Let's look at some vision. This is an opportunity for us to have a place. This could be the central place where people come to see the wetlands, to see the wildlife. If you walk right to the water there and you walk directly from the water to the wetlands across the street, you're actually walking on top of a tidal channel. And my partner's a biologist, he said to every elected official we brought out there, wouldn't it be great to take the asphalt off of this tidal channel and have a little glass over it or even open so you could see the stingrays coming through, so you could see the fish coming into the Biona wetlands, and we would have kind of an open air tidal channel there where people, as soon as they got out of their car, they would really get what the whole marina and the wetlands area is about. So that's one idea, and there are ideas of things we could do with this. We could have a great observation deck built there that could look out over things and you could see things the way the birds see them. And that's one of the things I want to talk about. This is a flyway. Right here, in many of these trees in this park, you'll see black-crowned night herons. Well, if you look on the map and you see Burton Chase Park, to Dock 52, to the wetlands tidal channel that we just talked about, that's where the black-crowned night herons fly back and forth. You put this big structure right in the middle, and it's right in their flyway. Another pathway is to the egrets that nest right across the way at Violet Park. The snowy egrets and the great egrets. Again, this is right in their path. So we want to think about these things and have them really studied, which they were not done before. And as you know, under the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, cumulative impacts are required, and also a no-action alternative is required to be studied. None of that was thought about because this was just being pushed through by the county supervisors. Several of which are turned out, by the way, and 2 will be gone in December. So, I mean, there are new thinking ways about this area and how much wonderful nature that we have to protect. And in fact, you may have heard that our Congress member, Tab Blue, who's an official in the Air Force, he is actually just introduced into Congress a bill directing the National Park Service to study the idea of a Los Angeles Coast National Recreation Area. And we have several Congress members who signed on to that. There's just so much potential here. And we'd love to see the Army Corps join in with the National Park Service and have the federal government have a little more say, because we know that you have some environmental laws that we don't really have on the local level. Thank you.
But I want to thank everybody here that made such beautiful, eloquent statements, and thank you for coming. I want to remind everybody, because it almost was said by the last speaker, and many, many people have made beautiful remarks. The marina was built by the Army Corps, by you guys, and we have to keep federal standards. We have been sold down the river by the Coastal Commission and by the Board of Supervisors. I'm a Federalist, not a states' rights person, so please, do your duty, guys, and help us. Thank you.
I want to thank the Corps engineers for coming and sitting in front of us and allowing us to speak. It's a fabulous opportunity for us to express ourselves. It's not a comfortable place to be, always. Some people, I think we have a pretty calm, organized group. Now, my experience with the Corps of Engineers goes back to the time I was a toddler, because I grew up in the state of California since I was born in 1946. And I fished a lot in lakes that were built by the Corps of Engineers. Thank you very much. And I caught a lot of fish over the years. Also, I worked for the Corps of Engineers, not directly, indirectly for a contractor, the Hancock Foundation at USC, and I did the data analysis on the Corps report for LA Harbor done by Dorothy Sewell and Mickey O'Gurry, which the report is about that thick. And I did the data cleanup for that and did the data analysis on the initial report, which was the largest environmental project ever run on the West Coast up until that time, the early 70s. It included bird and fish data, all kinds of things. I was the computer guy, and I put in over 90 hours a week, and I still went out and collected data at sea. Now, I'm against this installation on the basis of its disturbance and the fact that it is an unbelievable outlay of money that will not accomplish what they have set out to do. I have seen the county spend money for the purpose of building fiefdoms in their departments, such as the Purelizer at Malibu Lagoon, which they spent $1 million on that, and it never once worked for one day from the time it was installed. They have since spent money to remove it. They've done a whole big project over there. These projects are done, but they are not done in a way that can be monitored and improved by using a very effective management technique where we measure the species counts, employ biologists, we do the species counts, and then we perform corrective actions. If you want to launch more boats, there are other cheaper ways to do it and safer ways for the public to use existing facilities and perhaps an additional facility located elsewhere in the marina. So I think we need to look at the other avenues of solving this problem and not turn, as our colleague said, to the things which seem to be more appropriate for having covered boat spaces in places like Chicago and the East Coast, of which I am also familiar. So thank you very much for your time. You're looking at 172 plus units of science alone, and I have had people such as Linus Pauling watch my work.
We have a little bit of time, if there's anybody who has something compelling.
Okay, thank you for allowing us this public discourse. It's been really wonderful to hear about everything. I ditto a lot of what has already been said, so I will just be pretty brief. I think the realities of 50, 60 years ago, and when the marina was conceived and built, do not fit 21st century realities. We are in the midst of some major, as you know, because the Corps is going to have to respond to them, major 21st century realities involving climate change, which is going to hit this area very hard. It's going to hit the wetlands very hard. It's going to hit the marina very hard. And the realities of 50 or 60 years ago and the constant building, we are losing species at such a rate, including many are endangered who winter here. This is a major spot in the Pacific Flyway that's been pointed out. And we are in danger of losing over 40% of the remaining. We've lost 70% of the seabirds. Many of them winter here from the Arctic, from up north. And we can't afford to lose anymore. They are hanging by a thread. Even in this last year, I think 2015 is going to be a defining year that because of the species collapse of the fisheries. And so I think I really encourage you to rethink things in terms of 21st century reality and what needs to happen here. So that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Hello again. My time ran out, and I simply want to play a video from a former coastal commissioner, now state assembly member from Santa Cruz. His name is Mark Stone. He's a forward thinker, also a voter, an expert, and he directly addressed what he felt of Boat Central and similar projects like Boat Central just a few years ago. And I think his comments, I'm hoping, really disappointed that we can't use technology here. We'll try to get this on audio and see if it works, but kind of bear with me as much as you can. I'll also submit this to the Corps.
I think the technology and some of the other possibilities are kind of really cool to think, but if you start looking at, if I'm going to order my boat and it's going to be washed and it's going to be fueled and it's going to be provisioned, now the cost to me is significant. And that's not, if we're creating a situation where we're driving up, or the plan is driving up the cost of boating, which is expensive enough already, we're now closing the door to a lot of probably current boaters, and certainly future boaters who wouldn't be able to afford that.
So again, those comments are deep. If we are now closing the door on affordable recreational boating, and that's essentially what this project does. You're taking a very high-end facility and you're now putting in prices that are way above what we are normally accustomed to in wet slips and dry storage. You're raising the ceiling, and we know that the other prices will go along with that. That is what Assemblymember Stone is talking about. You are now closing the door on people who this marina was built for. And really what the Harbors and Rivers Act talks all about. In there, it's fair and equitable pricing. And you have to look at fair and equitable pricing, especially when taxpayers funded this federal project. You should not build high-end facilities on public land where taxpayer money is involved, because again, you're only allowing a certain segment, a top segment of the population to access those facilities. And that's simply wrong. This land is for everybody, these public lands, and it says on a very nice plaque right out in front of the Department of Beaches and Harbors that this harbor was built for the residents of Los Angeles County. It is Los Angeles County land, but you as well know that the federal taxpayers were also very much involved here. And if you're going to go out to the federal taxpayers and say, sorry, this facility isn't for you. We know that it's too expensive for you. Find other places on the recreational public land that you can kind of go to. Like Ms. Marino brought up, our access is diminishing quickly. And until, again, I'll go back to that Calvary statement, it's like I'm watching a movie, I'm seeing that uniform. We need you here. We're glad that you are here tonight. And we really need your involvement now to bring about more fair and equitable access and fair and equitable pricing as outlined in House Document 389 and Public Law 780. Thank you.
Raise your hand if you would like to have an environmental impact statement. Is there anyone that wouldn't? What about our developer over there? Do you want an environmental impact statement?
Jump to the core.
Thank you. My name is Liz Schallenberger. I'm a resident of Marina Del Rey. And this is going on to my sanctuary. I just kind of wanted to put a face to a lot of the people who enjoy that area on the weekends. I'm a cyclist, and you know, it's my big passion in life, and that's where my group meets. And you know, I see a lot of other groups there, you know, guys bringing their kids to go on the fishing boats and families going on the party boats. And you know, I met one weekend, there were guys, you know, who had no use of their legs learning how to use their arm-powered wheelchairs. And it's just, you know, I work downtown as a nurse, and I'm on the 10 freeway for 3 hours a day, and I'm just about insane by the end of the week. And that's where I go, that's where my space is. And I think a lot of other people in my position feel the same way. You know, not that anything other than numbers and dollars influences anything, but I just wanted to put my 2 cents in. Thank you.
The county is planning to put a lot of stand-up paddleboard and kayak storage directly across the street from this project that you're considering today. Sorry, I can't see you. And the safety of launch ramp boaters coming out, many of whom are new to boating, so they need a little bit of forgiveness when they're trying to get underway rather than trying to, you know, get through that little narrow passage with lots of cigarette boats and other big boats coming at them from every direction or from one direction. So I really would implore you to make public safety of all the boating uses in the channel, not just the ones that they've told you about, but there are other things that are proposed, that are on the docket that the county and the applicants don't mention because there hasn't been a permit signed, you know, the final permits haven't been issued. So they just kind of ignore these things. And please find out from the applicant all of the proposed uses in Basin H, because that will impact, that will inform your assessment of the safety hazards of this project. And finally, I'd like to say that the Marina Coalition, we're just a lot of different organizations in the community, and we've all discovered that we all have this shared common interest, and we would like a representative from the Corps to be involved with that. If one of you would like to be part of that, we would invite you to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And on behalf of Corps of Engineers, this is tremendous participation, and it's of great value to us in our process to hear directly from you. So thank you for coming tonight. Again, we carefully consider all comments, both verbal that we've heard here tonight, as well as written, for the proposed project as part of our final permit decision. As a reminder, the open period for comments is open until May 20th. Next Friday is when that period closes. So they must be received by May 20th in order for us to consider them in evaluation for this permit. So what's the next step? You can hear a pin drop. I know you want to know. We take this and make a determination in an environmental assessment to determine significance. And that does take a bit of time as we consider both what the applicant has submitted as well as your comments for it. And we will use your comments from today as well as those that have already been submitted and those that'll be submitted in written form through the 20th in our decision document. There will be responses to those in our decision document. If you need any further information on the project, I encourage you to visit the information table at the entrance. We do have a website that information is available on. Be sure you get the link to that website. Thank you. It was a privilege and a pleasure hearing from all of you tonight, and wish you the best.